Hello makers, welcome to this third part of the fidget spinner tutorial. In this one we're going to be creating the body for the fidget spinner, and there's no like settled design that you have to do. I'm going to do a couple of ones for you to just like notice, and consider doing either any of those or just go ahead and create your own fidget spinner. So you can see here that we have the bearing and the hub. Right now, I'm gonna hide them for a second. I'm gonna see the top view, and as you can tell, I didn't hide, or I rather like make sure that the sketch one was showing up in here because we're gonna use some part of it. So I'm gonna create a new sketch. We're gonna be working on the top plane, and in here, the only thing I'm gonna use from this sketch is just the outer edge of the bearing, the outer circle. So using the tool project or use, that's right here, I'm gonna click it, and that's just gonna bring a geometry from a different either sketch or piece, and just gonna bring it to our current sketch. So it's gonna create a replica of it in the plane that we're working on. So if I click here, now you can see that this line is it turned black instead of the gray color it had. And if I go here in sketch one and hide it again, now you'll see that we have a circle in here. Why do we bring this circle to our sketch? Because we're gonna use it to find the place for the actual bearing that we're gonna be using for this project. That's gonna be sitting on the center of our body. Next, we're gonna create a line for reference. Now, lines usually help us create geometry, but in this case, I'm just gonna create a line, just the one line. That's gonna be 25 millimeters long. But this line, we're not gonna use it to create geometry, so we're rather just gonna use it as reference. So in order to use a line that we're not gonna use, we mark it as a construction line. So I'm gonna click this, I'm gonna select the line that we just created, and I'm gonna make it into a construction line. You see that now it has this, oh, my bad. Now it's a dotted line. And again, it's not gonna turn into anything once we like do a 3D model out of it. So now that we have this line, I'm gonna use the end of that line to make another circle. That's gonna be 22 millimeters in diameter. And so I'm doing this because I'm gonna start with like the base model of a fidget spinner, just so you know. So, but pretty much up until this point where we made the first circle for the bearing, it's kind of like free for you to do whatever you like. Let's say, for example, we want to do like the standard fidget spinner body. So for that, I'm gonna make another circle in here. That's gonna be 30 millimeters in diameter. And then we're gonna replicate these two circles in a circular fashion. If you click here, let's look for the circular pattern tool. I'm gonna select this circle and this circle, and notice how it's replicated 3 times. We could change the number of times it shows up in here by modifying this number, but 3 times again is the standard number of bearings or spaces you have in there. So I'm just gonna give a left click, just as you see in here, to accept this modification. And notice how these lines are blue, however. That's because its center point, the center point of this circle, the circles is somewhere around here. Right now it's coincident with the origin. But if I left click this and drag it, you see that there's another point like coming out of it. This point. This is the center point of these 3 copies, right? So what we're gonna do is to make sure that this center point and the origin are concentric. And boom, we haven't turned into black lines. Now we can move the circles because its center point matches the origin, right? Gotta stop using this constraint. And now now that we have these 3 spaces for bearings or any other things in there, now we can modify, or rather we have to like find a connection in here. So the usual thing to do, again, not that you have to, is to make an arc that connects these 2 circles, for example. We click here once, we click here in the other line, in the other circle, and then we make a little arc in here somewhere, right? We're gonna modify its radius in a minute. So we make that arc, gonna click here to stop making arcs, and then on the dimension tool, we're gonna make this radius to be 12 millimeters. But you can tell that this line still and its points are still blue, and we're gonna define that this point will kind of find its right spot when this curve and this circle are tangent. That's where like they barely touch, they barely coincide. So by using the tangent tool or tangent constraint, I'm gonna select this curvature and then this circle, and then we're gonna and then because I'm still using this tool because I haven't deselected, I'm gonna do the same for the other circle, this and this. Cool. I'm gonna unselect that tool by hitting the escape key, and now I'm gonna, just like as we did with the other circles, I'm just gonna make copies of it. So let's go back to circle pattern. We select this curve, and I'm just gonna hit the left click somewhere in here to make copies. And just like last time, its center point is hidden somewhere in here, so I'm just gonna drag this point to make that center point visible to us. And now we're using the coincident tool or constraint, we're gonna select this point and the origin. And there you have it. I'm gonna select that this sketch is done. And technically from here I can just, oh, my bad. I wasn't trying to create another sketch, but rather create an extrusion. It's gonna be a solid piece, it's gonna be a new piece, and I'm gonna be selecting these areas. The areas that are not gonna be holding a bearing. The depth of this has to be 7 millimeters. And as the bearing was on that first tutorial, this is gonna be a symmetric piece from the top line. Let me hit OK. And here we have the body. Now this body, I'm gonna right click its name and rename it as like the standard body. And maybe change its color by right clicking the part and change it to red. And this has like kind of like hard edges in here, so technically you can also like go to fillet, put a radius of 1, and if I click on one of these curves, I think it has tangent propagation, so it just pretty much takes all the lines that are like tangent to that first curve and also like applies the fillet for that. So if I do that the same for this, for one of the edges on the bottom, it should do the same thing. And now we've smoothed the edges of the fidget spinner. You can even like make it a little bigger, but for now I'm just gonna leave it in 1. Let's click OK, and there you have it. Now this is the standard body of a fidget spinner. Now I'm gonna hide this for a sec, and I'm gonna bring back the sketch 1, because now we're gonna do a different version. Say you want to do this one I've done before and see that I'm making a sketch number 4. Let's head to, again, it's gonna be on the top plane. I've done a version of it that's kind of like uh, nuclear logo. So again, I showed up, or I made the sketch one to show up in here. Again, we're gonna use the use or project tool. Gonna select this circle, and I'm gonna hide the sketch one again. Same principle. I'm gonna make a construction line that goes from the center to the top. This again, this line is gonna be measuring 25 millimeters. We're gonna make another center point circle at this end. That is gonna be also 22 millimeters. But this time, for the body, I'm just gonna create a line, a few lines. One line that starts here on the initial bearing circle. I'm gonna make it this way. Then I'm gonna put another line that's horizontal, and then another line that meets that original circle. Oh, you know what? Let me undo this. My bad. Sorry. I'm gonna make a circle in here. That's gonna be 30 millimeters in diameter, and now I'm gonna do the lines. Why? Because this is gonna be like the casing for the bearing that's gonna be at the center. Now from here, I'm gonna repeat that same process. Gonna make a line that's touching that outer circle, that 30 millimeter in diameter circle. Gonna make this line, one line that's horizontal, and then one line that meets that circle again. And I'm gonna put some measurements. Now these measurements are only an example. Let's say I want this to be 40 millimeters, but I want this distance to be 20. So it's kind of like well distributed on both sides. Let's make this line, the distance, the horizontal distance between these 2 points to be, let's say 9 millimeters. Same thing on the other side. And maybe let's make sure that distance between this point and this point is, let's say 32. All right. Now you can tell that everything is well defined here. All the lines became black. And I'm gonna stop putting dimensions. And now we're gonna make sure that we copy these 3 lines around and the circle around the origin. So we go back into circular pattern. We select this, 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 and this. And I'm gonna give a left click to accept those copies. And just like last time, I'm gonna drag something in here to show that center point of the copies that we just made. And I'm gonna make sure that that center is coincident with the origin. Great. And I'm gonna select that we're done with the sketch. And just like last time, we can create extrude version where we select the areas that we want to extrude. In this area too. Again, it's gonna be a depth of 7 millimeters. Why 7? Because that's the height, or rather the thickness of the bearing that we're gonna be using. And make sure that it's symmetric too. And there we have it. Now, again, its edges might be a little too pointy for our taste. So I'm gonna create a fillet only on these edges. That's gonna be quite big, because these edges are kind of like the ones that are pointier. Maybe let's go by a radius of 5. Then I'll put a fillet in here on these edges, the inner edges. they're gonna be way smaller than that. So let's make a 1 millimeter radius. And we're gonna select these tiny ones. And we can even go ahead and create the same for all these areas, or all these edges at the top too. See how like this, in this case, not all edges do propagate immediately. So you have to go like select a few things in order to create that. All right, so I put a big fillet on these corners, and then on the other a 5 millimeter fillet, and for the other ones just a 1 millimeter. And there you have it, a new piece. Let's call it, in part 4, let's rename it as, I don't know, nuclear body. Name is kind of silly, but it'll be okay. Yeah, and so technically we have the two bodies in here, depending on what body we want to use or select. And you can also like do a simpler version of this. Let's create a simpler version. Again, let's bring up sketch number 1. Or we could like stop bringing up sketch number 1. Let's do that, and just like as if we were making a new sketch. Let's go to the top, because we already know what the dimension of that circle at the beginning. Supposed to be 22. And say you don't want to be messing around with a lot with your with your body. Say you just want to create an ellipse. Make it like a 2-bearing version of it. And let's add some dimensions. Interesting. Well, here's another fact. Technically, although it's a blue line and we try to make all the blinds black, we could kind of leave it that way. So we could also be dealing with a shape that's like this. Maybe let's make this, I don't know, like 95. And then let's measure this as a 38. And let's see if that gives us some room to fit another couple of bearings. Oh, I forgot to select the construction line for that, so I just select that line. Gonna turn it into construction line, and let's put a measurement in here of like, let's say 28 millimeters. Maybe that's too small of a measure. Let's find out. And now let's create a center point circle from here. It's also gonna be 22 millimeters. Let's add the dimension to the circles. It should be 22 millimeters in diameter. And maybe these are like too far apart. Let's double click on this 28 dimension. Let's make it 27. And so, that seems to be fine. And now we can create another extrusion. Kind of looks like a pea, like green peas. Do a 7mm. Let's make it this. Make sure that it's symmetric. It's a new solid in here. Let's just accept this. And I don't know, in the name, let's just call it like simple bearing or simple body. And we can add some fillets in here and in here as well to make it. Let's make that a bigger fillet this time, just to see how it shows up, how it looks like. And let's change its color by making it orange. We didn't change the color of the nuclear body, but let's say this one's gonna be yellow. So there you have it. Let's bring up the bearing. Let's show it a little bit. The hub too. And so depending on what kind of body you like to do, you can go for the simple body, the nuclear body, the standard body, or anything that comes to mind. You could have even like just make a big circle and leave it that way. I feel that should be the end of this tutorial. Of course, you're welcome to explore more of these tools. There are many tools that you could use. I didn't go through all of them because it would be such a long video. But hope you'd like this, and know that also you have the opportunity to go to Tinkercad, and you can even create a version of a body that's that later, if you feel like you are more comfortable using Tinkercad, you can pretty much go make a simple body or a circle that just contains this circle in the center, and then it's just a bigger circle, and then go to Tinkercad and add some stuff to it. That's also part of what you can do. So think about it. Be creative, original. Go for the design you like to have in your fidget spinner, and good luck with this project. I'll see you later.